I've never been very good at reading the Bible. Yes, I do have some favorite stories from the Bible, but there are just too many begets and begats, too many different authors, too many contradictions, and not to mention outdated and questionable beliefs, such as advocating upholding the institution of slavery. That's just one example. So when I am seeking wisdom or lessons on how I should live my life, I have always turned to literature, novels, short stories, poetry, but especially Russian literature. For some reason, Russian writers have always seemed to me to be more concerned with matters of the soul than with other writers. Their literature deals with all the big questions. What is the nature of good and evil? What is the meaning of life? Does God exist? And if not, what does that mean? Nikolai Gogol, who wrote in the first half of the 19th century and was a precursor of Dostoevsky and an inspiration for Dostoevsky, was one of the first writers to address the darker side of Russian society. His main target was not evil per se, but a pervasive and insidious disease of the soul, known in Russian as poshlost, P-O-S-H-L-O-S-T. If you had to translate this Russian word with a single word in English, it would probably be banality. But the Russian word is much broader and more far-reaching than that. It includes such qualities as shallowness, pettiness, narrow-mindedness, ignorance, willful ignorance, self-satisfied mediocrity, mindlessness, and the embrace of false values such as the worship of money, rank, or status. Poshlost can refer to a whole society, or it can refer to individuals within that society who are known individually as poshlyaks. He's a poshlyak, or people who lead a poshly life. Gogol is known in Russia as the poet of Poshlost. And he wrote stories, plays, and a novel describing Poshlost in all of its forms. The story I am about to tell, one of Gogol's most famous stories, is set in St. Petersburg in the 1830s, at a time when that city was the center of political power and also of the arts. The Tsar and his court were there, as well as a vast hierarchy of civil servants whose rank was always apparent by the uniforms they wore as they strolled down the elegant streets of the capital city. Ambitious young men came there from all over Russia to seek their fortunes, including Gogol himself, an aspiring writer who left his home in Ukraine to mingle with the great poets and artists of Petersburg. Here is the story, or one of the stories, Gogol wrote about that city. It is entitled simply, The Nose. On March 25th, an extraordinarily strange event occurred in Petersburg. A barber by the name of Ivan Yakovlevich woke up early to the aroma of freshly baked bread. Indeed, when he lifted his head from the pillow, he could see his wife removing 2 hot loaves of bread from the oven. He decided that he was going to have a wonderful breakfast. And his wife, who was not a cheerful woman, grumpily agreed and tossed him one of the loaves as he sat down at the table for breakfast. And he eagerly cut the loaf in half, getting ready to enjoy his bread. But he noticed a strange white thing in the middle of the loaf, and he prodded it with his fingers. It was firm. He pulled it out. It's a nose. He was horrified because actually he thought he recognized the nose. It belonged to one of his regular clients. Nevertheless, he wanted to continue with his breakfast, and he wrapped the nose in a rag and put it on the counter to wait a while he finished his breakfast. But his wife saw what he had done, and she was outraged. And she said, "You get that nose out of my kitchen this minute." So he did. He put on his coat, he slipped the nose in his pocket, and he went out onto the street to try and find a sly way of disposing of it that no one would notice. But he kept meeting people. As early as it was, he had a hard time, so he decided to go to St. Isaac's Bridge, a bridge over one of the many canals in Petersburg, and lean over and pretend to be looking at the fish. And meanwhile, he dropped the nose into the canal. But just as he did that, a policeman from the other side of the bridge noticed what he was doing and ordered him to come forward and explain exactly what he had been doing. And at that moment, a fog descends, a mist, and it's unclear what happened to the barber and the policeman after that. And we now move to a different part of the city where a young collegiate assessor, that's one of the many ranks, or major as he preferred to call himself, Kovalyev, woke up in his apartment, and he immediately asked his servant. Every person of a certain rank has a manservant with him to do everything for him. Asked his servant to bring a mirror so he could check on the status of a pimple on the left side of his nose. He was a very vain and well-groomed man, and he had to keep track of such things. But when he tried to inspect the pimple, he realized that there was no nose there. It was just as flat as a pancake. And now this Kovalyev was a respectable young man. He had come from the provinces to seek a suitable position, and he was not averse to marrying well either. And now, how would that be possible for him to pursue without a nose? So he dressed and went out on the street, holding a handkerchief up to his face, pretending that he had a nosebleed. so that no one would notice the blank place on his face. And as he was on his way to the police station to report a missing nose, he saw a very strange sight. A carriage stopped in front of him. And a gentleman, finely dressed gentleman, got out and went into a house. But he realized that this gentleman was none other than his nose. And so he waited a few minutes. The nose was now human size, right? And dressed in a uniform with a plumed hat, a sword, and an obvious rank of a state counselor, which was 2 ranks higher than Kovalyov's own rank. And he was absolutely horrified that his nose should do such a thing. But he waited a few minutes and the nose came back out, got into the carriage, and proceeded a little bit farther. And Kovalyov was able to follow the carriage to its next stop, which was the Kazan Cathedral. So Kovalyov, the nose, entered the cathedral and disappeared. Kovalyov went after him, passing the row of beggar women with bandaged faces, which they were always there on the front steps of the cathedral. He, in the past, had always found them highly amusing, but this time he didn't like the sight of them. He finally found the nose that had gone off to one side of the cathedral and was devoutly praying. But he went up to the nose and he had the following conversation with him. He started by saying, "My dear sir," and the nose said, "What can I do for you?" Well, Kovalyov says, "It seems to me that you should know your proper place." And the nose said, "What are you talking about?" And Kovalyov said, "Well, I'm a major, after all, and I can't go around without a nose. That's just improper." And the nose said, "I don't understand. Please explain." And Kovalyov said, "Sir, well, you are my own nose." And the nose was indignant, said, "You are mistaken. I am myself. And judging by your uniform, young man, there can be no relationship between us." And he turned and he continued to pray. At that moment, a beautiful young lady entered the cathedral with her mother, and Kovalyov was instantly distracted and contemplating how he could go up to them and introduce himself and so forth. But then he stopped and he realized, well, I can't, of course, without my nose. So he turned again, and the nose had disappeared. It was gone. So, and his carriage was gone. So Kovalyov's next stop was the newspaper office. He had decided he should place an ad for his missing nose. And of course he was too ashamed to give the ad taker his name, but he did mention his rank and said that his nose had run off. The man misunderstood and said, "Well, you mean your serf? Your serf ran off?" "No, my nose." "Oh, did Mr. Noseman take your money then?" He said, "No, it's my actual nose." And the man said, "Well, we can't publish such nonsense as that. Our paper would lose its reputation. Anyway, it's a medical matter. It's not a matter for the newspapers." But out of curiosity, he asked to see Kovalyov's face, which he was still covering up with a handkerchief, and found it very interesting. And he offered him as consolation a sniff of his snuff. But then he realized Kovalyov couldn't take his snuff, and Kovalyov was deeply offended and left the newspaper office in a huff. His next stop was the police commissioner, who was a patron of the arts and also a collector of banknotes. He liked to get them from his clients and keep them. Bribes, in other words. He too, when he heard Kovalyov's story, ended up insulting. Said, no gentleman of your rank would allow his nose to be pulled off. And Kovalyov left in despair, went back to his apartment, checked the mirror with half-closed eyes again just to make sure the nose was still gone, and it was. But then there was a knock on the door. And who should be there but that police officer from St. Isaac's Bridge. And he said, did you mislay your nose by any chance? And he had with him the nose, now back to its normal size, neatly wrapped in paper. And he said, we have caught the chief villain in this matter. He's a barber who is drunk in jail as we speak. But here's your nose. And he handed it to him. And hints for a tip, of course, which Kovalyov gives him, and the barber leaves, the policeman leaves. Kovalyov's hands are trembling with joy. And he examines the nose to see if it is the right nose. And indeed it is, because it has that same pimple on the left-hand side. But his joy in the world is never permanent. And when he pulled it up to his face, of course it wouldn't stick. He blew on it and tried again. It would not stick. No luck. So once again, he was in despair, and he called the doctor. Doctor came and studied the situation, but said that surgery might make it worse. The doctor's advice, wash his face with cold water and put the nose in a jar with some spirits of alcohol as a keepsake, or maybe he could even get a good price for it. So it's a collector's item. Kovalyov was angry and disappointed. The doctor left with a dignified air. So Kovalyov lay low for a week or so, and meanwhile, rumors flew around the city. There were sightings of the nose here and there, sort of like Elvis sightings. It was a subject of gossip, scandal, false sightings, false rumors. Some people got up in arms and demanded that the government should do something about this nose. But finally, about 2 weeks later, on April 7th, another strange thing happened. Kovalyov woke up, and his nose was back in its proper place. He tested this out to make sure he wasn't imagining it by asking his servant to come and please check the pimple on his nose. And the servant said, oh, actually, no, the pimple is gone. Your nose is completely pimple-free now. But he didn't say, your nose is not there. So he decided to celebrate. He got dressed in his finest. He went first to a cafe, checked in the mirror in the cafe to make sure his nose was okay. It was. And he smiled with smug satisfaction to notice that there were two soldiers sitting in the corner with very small button-sized noses of no consequence. And he went from there to his office, got a perfectly normal reception. He strolled or strutted down the street, greeting the ladies, ostentatiously taking snuff. And he resumed his life as if nothing had ever happened. The story ends with a comment. Well, it's very strange indeed to have a nose parading around as a state councilor. And even stranger is the thought of trying to publish a newspaper ad about such a thing. That's indecent. But strangest of all is that a writer would choose such a topic, which serves no benefit to the people or to the motherland. What's the point? But his last words of the story are, but there is something to it. Strange things do happen in the world, rarely, but they do. And so ends the story of the nose. What does this strange and wonderful story mean? Does it have any meaning at all? Certainly, it is a critique of Petersburg society and its mindless worship of rank and status. But more important, it is about human nature. And that is what makes it relevant to us readers today. Right now, as I speak, we are being tested by an array of bizarre events. We have had hailstorms in Colorado with hail the size of baseballs. We have tornadoes where we have never had tornadoes before. We have 100-year floods every 2 years. These strange phenomena demand our serious attention. And also, as I don't need to tell you, we have just been through the most bizarre presidential election in history, and it's not even over yet. This too demands our close attention. Indeed, bizarre things do happen in this world, as Gogol says, and they need our scrutiny and understanding and a proper investigation of their causes, not a passive or mindless acceptance of their existence. One of the aspects of human nature that the nose illustrates clearly is man's capacity for denial, a trait that we are all guilty of from time to time. When I was a child, one of my favorite TV shows was Candid Camera, where they would set up bizarre situations and then film the reactions of the unsuspecting people who encountered them. One episode featured a magnetized coffee mug in a diner that would move around on the table as the unlucky traveler tried to eat his breakfast. Most customers reacted to this with annoyance and simply moved the mug back to its proper place when it strayed. One man was so annoyed that he constructed a little barricade around his mug using the silverware, the ketchup bottle, or whatever else was handy to keep it in place. This man was also embarrassed and looked around surreptitiously to see if anyone in the diner had noticed his strange problem. Only one person confronted the problem directly, openly, and intelligently. With great curiosity, he got out of his chair and peered under the table to see if he could figure out what was going on. Isn't that just like Gogol's barber, who after finding the nose in his bread, just put it aside on the counter, wanting to finish his breakfast in peace? Or in a similar way, our hero, Kovalyov, treated the disappearance of his nose as an annoyance an awkward and unseemly disruption of his daily routine. Gogol was above all concerned with the frailties of human nature, and although his writings were highly entertaining and often extremely funny, he was dead serious in his mission. He wanted his readers to see themselves in his characters and change their lives accordingly. Gogol and Dostoevsky after him realized that poshlost was not a trivial matter. If not evil in itself, it was a gateway to evil. Jump ahead 100 years, and we see that belief confirmed. Hannah Arendt, the noted historian of totalitarianism, and in particular Hitler's Germany, wrote a book about Adolf Eichmann, one of Hitler's main henchmen, which she entitled simply The Banality of Evil. In her analysis, Eichmann is portrayed as the most ordinary of men, shallow, mediocre, mindless. Likewise, the society that tolerated Hitler's rise to power. The same terms could be used to describe Stalin's Russia. The great Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich, who wrote his music during Stalin's reign and had to contend with his interference in the arts, made the nose into an opera. The Metropolitan Opera recently revived it, and 3 years ago, the new production was broadcast to local theaters here in Rochester via the Met's regular high-definition series. This production contained an interesting staging device which would not have been possible in the days of Stalin. Projected onto the background were films of Stalinist Russia, newsreels of his speeches, military parades, and so forth, which added a sinister, menacing tone to Gogol's portrayal of poshlost. Indeed, poshlost does generate the kind of mindlessness and lack of awareness that can permit terrible things to happen. As Buddhism teaches us, the first line of defense against evil is awareness. Now, more than ever, we must be mindful of everything that is happening around us, whether it be climate change or political change. We must study these things deeply and try to understand their root causes. I would like to end with a quote from the Christian mystic Thomas Merton, who said, "Every moment and every event in man's life on earth plants something in his soul. For just as the wind carries thousands of winged seeds, so each moment brings with it germs that come to rest imperceptibly in the minds and the wills of men." Gogol might well have added to this, "Let these germs inspire virtues such as honesty and self-awareness, and not poshlost."
This flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Go with awareness.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.